and welcome back to the 4am Report. Perhaps you found us in the middle of this episode arc. This is the second in a 3-episode arc about the types of episodes that you can employ within podcasting that will give the hero's journey a little bit of run for its money, because the hero's journey has been consistently executed by almost every podcaster. Not everyone is an expert at drawing out that story and can get a little boring for listeners. So with that in mind, today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the second bucket of podcast episode types, which I will broadly categorize as a show and tell type of episode. And what should you be doing within a show and tell episode? I've again cut that down into sort of 4 types. The first of them is a sort of a case study episode. It's an excellent idea to bring on a guest on an episode like this, but bring them on very specifically for the purpose of talking about the case at hand, as opposed to like, where did you start and how did you launch your career and your business or whatever it is that you're talking about. Like, focus on the case study at hand. The second type is like, come with us sort of behind the scenes, but a little bit more intelligently than here is my blooper. You can certainly do that, but going a little bit deeper. Think about process and team in particular, because you are dealing with client on the case study. You can certainly go into the back end of client processes. So within the second type, really think about showcasing people on your team, how you approach certain problems, how you, create solutions, that kind of thing. And, from it as well, think about panels of episodes. Think about bringing people from different silos of your organization together, or multiple organizations if you are a small business, and think about constructing panels, which is the third of those types. Now, we've curated a few clips from previous episodes that break down the types. Take a listen. It gives you a bit more detail on these 3. Enjoy.
Welcome to the 4am Report. On this podcast, we dish about fresh-pressed, fun marketing. If you're stressed out and awake at night again, wondering what to do, you found your joy. I'm your host, Susan Diaz, podcasting founder, humor junkie, observer of human behavior patterns, and mom. Each week, I'm joined by a different co-host to break down the latest headlines at the intersection of marketing and entertainment.
The next few types of episodes are really what we like to call the show and tell kind of thing. So the first of those is really taking the case study or the use case and going through that process of like, how do we do that? Like what happened? Like, what was the problem? What was the solution? And how did it happen? And where did it take you? That kind of thing. So really trying to find, and then the goal is within your sort of existing clients or whatever, I think. You might want to go there and think about that. It's still a guest episode, but really think about potentially having maybe 2 or 3 people in a group together where you speak about something that you've achieved. And then the next one, maybe Will, you can chat a little bit about this. This is having panels or people in cohorts, like coming together regularly to create podcasts.
Yeah, no, we're starting to really highlight and focus a lot of our production efforts on this panel or cohort, or bringing a group together, a group of experts who all share maybe a similar end audience, but they all bring a different expertise that this end audience would love to hear. So maybe that topic the panel is going to talk about is, the business case for podcasting, and you bring in like a podcast producer, you bring in someone who does the writing or whatever, someone who does the design. You could bring in a business coach too, who really believes in the podcast as like an anchor piece for your company. Anyways, it's a bunch of experts who all have different expertise weighing in. And also, again, the reason I love the panel is it really does immediately amplify your audience, because you're now working with a few different people. You're all reaching each other's audience. You've all agreed to equally promote it and comment on each other's posts and everything. It's a really great way to amplify the reach of your messaging. And of course, build those strategic collaborative relationships even more with the people you work with on these panels. So many good reasons why a panel is perhaps something you should consider, especially, again, going back to bandwidth. If you are tight on your own bandwidth and your team is overstretched, sharing that workload with that group, or again, plug for us, we're starting to produce panel podcasts for people, making it quite easy on people's bandwidth. That's another reason.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that. Again, I think a slightly underutilized format is talking about processes. Like, it's a tactical thing. Think about showcasing especially your team on the inside. Like, is there a specific process that you run over and over again? I mean, maybe have the team member who does that come on your podcast and, walk through that whole entire thing. This is also possible for processes that you've potentially implemented for a client, and if they are willing to come in and chat about it. So really thinking about that same interview thing, but breaking it up into different ways, I think is the need of the hour. Like, again, moving away, like we said, from that, this is this person, this is their job, this is their life, their background. And we've all heard so many podcasts of that, right? So changing it up and just bringing in specific perspectives, especially from an internal team member thing, I think is like a
you know what? Something really cool to give you some concrete examples of what Susan's talking about. Last year, we did an episode with some of the writers on our team, because a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses do their own writing for a lot of things. Maybe they have one writing freelancer, but writing is something that can be the bane of someone's existence if you don't enjoy doing it. So we got the writers on our team together to let's talk about tips for writing social copy. Let's talk about tips for that longer form when you have to do a little bit of research. How do we approach that? So we just kind of talked through literally our process on how we all approach writing. And I thought we got a lot of good information out of that. And then also when you were mentioning a client process with a client, we recently had one of our clients, Colleen O'Connell Campbell, on, she's a wealth advisor. She works with businesses who want to grow and sell big, planning their exit strategy. We worked with her and we spoke about implementing a marketing flywheel and how by, hiring us kind of as her fractional marketing team, she was able to, make a lot of interesting marketing moves this past year. So we talked about that year-long flywheel and all of that sort of thing. So those are just two examples of us using that, talking things out with the client and talking out processes with internal teams.
Right. That's right. Now, the seventh type of, podcast episode to think about is, again, panel is a great way to do this, is things that showcase sort of your credibility or your collaboration and that kind of thing. So think about like industry analysts, like in this moment in time, maybe like workplace commentators. I don't know whether it's a spokesperson from government or establishment or whatever. So really thinking about having episodes that go beyond the one-on-one storytelling into these, like what are the things that are impacting our times? What are the policies? What are the, financial things, whatever that might be and whatever that might look like in your industry. It's that opportunity to showcase your thought leadership by being that person who brings in these voices. It's also like a great tool to think about from an inclusion perspective, like bring in someone specific. Maybe it's a great thing from a shall we say, earth-friendly climate. What are your responsibilities? Like, many things that tend to go away as tokenism, you can bring it under the umbrella of your podcast and start making wider comments than just your business. Thank you for listening to the 4 a.m. Report. If you like what you're hearing, we'd love if you left us a 5-star review. Thank you.